Hello, Com 100 students. I am thrilled to be presenting you with the week 5 video. This week we are moving from a lot of the theoretical discussions we've been having to more practical discussions relating to graphic design. And we're going to be beginning on our first major project, the design assignment. There is quite a bit to do this week. It cannot be completed in one sitting. So please plan your week accordingly so that you're giving yourself time to complete the work over the course of the week. I would pretend you're taking a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, split the work up into 3 groups of homework, and have everything due for that particular day. And because of the extent of the work, I have also extended the deadline from our usual Thursday to Friday evening for the week. Okay, let me show you what we're going to be working on. So, like I said, this week we are going to be introducing the design assignment. Essentially, you are going to be creating a poster that puts into practice fundamentals of graphic design. Before we get to that, however, we are going to be starting with an understanding and learning about copyright. Copyright is essential for all designers and artists to understand. And since we are going to be using material that we create online and find online for this project, it's important to understand that why we're able to use some of the work that we're going to be using and which we cannot. All right. And I see I have a typo right here. It should be your work. So the first part of this assignment is going to be relating to copyright. There are 2 videos and an article to read about how AI cannot be considered copyright because it is not human generated. The next step is going to be completing the assignment. Now the assignment is linked off of the quick links on the side here. It is also on the projects page. If you go to the projects page of the course website, you will see a link to it over here. It is also on the assignment for this week up here and also down here. And you will see that when I write assignments, I try to make them as specific and detailed as possible. I always put the goals of the assignment so that students are aware of what the purpose is of what we're doing. I always connect them directly to the course objectives so we could say, okay, there's a reason why we're doing this. And then I give the assignment specifics. I've been up since 5:30 this morning. Long day so far. And so this assignment is going to be 4 to 5 weeks long. Over the next several weeks, by completing the homework, you will be completing the assignment. During week 7, which is in a couple weeks, we are going to have required conferences, individual conferences where we discuss your drafts, and then the final week, the next week, the final draft will be due. The designs that we're going to be creating are going to be informed by, and you're going to employ in your creations, fundamental design theories and practices, such as lines, grid layouts, negative space, proximity, repetition, contrast, alignment, focal points, rule of thirds, and many others. It's going to be informed by and employ intentional selection of typefaces based on typeface theory, and we're going to be reading about that. It's fascinating stuff. I love it. And then we're going to also it's going to be informed by and employ intentional selection of color based on color theory and practice. You are going to be submitting your final work as the poster, but also in the form of a Google Slides slideshow that will trace the development of your poster design and will include screenshots of your work completed over the course of the weeks, where you use call-outs to highlight, here is where I'm using flow lines, here is where I'm using proximity, here is where I'm using contrast, here is the focal point, so that I understand, that you understand not only how you're using these concepts, but why you're using them. Okay, so the final project is going to include the final poster that you create, but also a slideshow in which you present that poster and the reasons why you've made your decisions. And in that process, we're going to be learning more about presentation design as well. So we're building a lot into this project. And the schedule, the assignment of the semester is such that if I feel like we need to push things back a little bit and give you a little bit more time, we can do that. So that's great. So you will see on this assignment page that I've broken this down into different weeks of work. And these links right here will jump down to the individual links, the individual sections, for that week and what is assigned. So for week 5, you are going to be introduced to graphic design fundamentals and creating draft number 1. To complete this work, we're going to be taking advantage of Canva, which is a free online design space that people are using quite a bit right now to very efficiently create media. A lot of it's used on like Instagram type stuff. And since this is a 100 level course, I'm not asking you to use Adobe or anything like that. So we're using this. It'll help us learn the concepts and get us started, and hopefully you'll gain interest and maybe want to do this some more. We're also going to be using ChatGTP to create the written content for the project. So this should be fun playing around with that as well. You will see that there are steps to complete along the way. Please complete them in order. There are 5 videos I'd like you to watch about fundamentals of graphic design. There is some repetition in here, but it's always nice to hear additional takes on things, and each video provides unique examples. So I always like to watch multiple videos so I can get as much information out of the concepts as possible. And then this includes a tutorial I've created for setting up and using ChatGTP. You could watch that. It's very exciting. And then another video that includes setting up and using Canva to complete the assignment. And I walk you through that pretty intentionally and deliberately, starting with how to set up the grid system we'll be using, and then starting to employ some of the concepts. And I need to add the specifics for that. So for this week, for draft number 1, and I'm going to change the language here so it includes draft in here. For draft number 1, I would like you to try to fit as much of the ChatGTP content that is generated into your poster and employ the following design concepts: alignment, contrast, negative space, proximity, repetition, and using a modular grid system. And then at the end, you will share your project with me so that I can access it and take a look and see what's going on in there. So by the end of the week, by next Friday, you should have a white poster filled with black text laid out in ways consistent with the design concepts here in step 5. We are going to be learning about typeface and color in future weeks, so please don't start changing the defaults now. Just focus on these concepts right here. We'll be getting to those other concepts at a later time. Okay. So that's the beginning of the poster assignment, the design assignment, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you create. Now, the next step for the week is, once you've completed this work, is to complete the entry for your discussion and design journal. This is going to be the first of several weeks where, instead of discussions and the discussion entries like we've been having based on the readings, we are going to have design entries. So please see the discussion and design journal assignment. I will have a link for you. I have to add that so that you can see what the specifics are. All right. And I'm going to, and again, I've got another typo here, apologize. I am going to be extending all this work due instead of the usual Thursday to Friday. So Friday, September 29th at 11 p.m. As you can see, there's a lot of work to do, but this is the beginning of all of the fun stuff that we're going to be making this semester. After this is the photography assignment, but I'm really looking forward to getting this started and seeing what you're able to create. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know, and have a wonderful, wonderful week. I'm going to go because my wife is calling me on the phone. Bye-bye.